Welcome to Glass Garden Apothecary. I'm sorry I missed last week, but it was a crazy week and I didn't have any time, because that happens. But today we're going to do my video on my period tea, which helps out with periods. I realized about a couple weeks ago that I've been doing this herb thing for about 15 years. I started as a teenager. And as a teenager, I had catastrophic periods. Like, I would throw up for the entire time that I was on my period because of the cramps and because of other things. And I also had really bad acne when I was a teenager as well. And I think that those were the two main issues that got me into herbalism, because a lot of times medical professionals or medical people, when someone has a really bad period, it's like, that's just the way it is. Periods hurt. Well, they don't have to. And then with my acne, when I go to dermatologists, they would say, oh, well, let's dry your skin out. I didn't have oily skin. I had exceptionally dry skin, which is why I had acne. So everything they gave me only made my acne worse. Actually, what cured my acne was I lost a little bit of weight, because acne, my acne was hormonal, and excess fat in the body messes with the endocrine system. And I lost a little bit of weight. I stopped using soap, which, don't freak out, it's fine. I stopped using soap on my face first, and I would use baking soda about once a month, kind of scrub it and clear it out. And then I would literally put oil on my face. Eventually that got refined to some essential oils and beeswax, and I make my own creams and moisturizers, which I do now. And no more acne. I mean, I used to be, like, hurt to have facial expressions acne. And when I was probably about 25 is when I finally got rid of it. But anyways, period tea. I call it Dez's tea, because I had a friend that also had catastrophic periods that needed some help. So, the first herb I have for my period tea is red clover. And yes, that is the plant that you see growing on the roadside in the ditches. It's that fun little purple clover plant. And it is great for periods. It actually tastes good too. It's planty tasting, but it's a little bit sweet. So I got my tablespoon here. It's a pretty, there's a lot of stuff going on, so there's more air than plant matter, so I'm going to put about three tablespoons in, because there's a lot of fluff because there's flowers. Now, red clover cleanses the body. It's really good for chronic conditions over time, because it kind of clears out toxins from the body and it supports the liver. It's also an antispasmodic, which helps with cramping and things like that. It also encourages the flow of blood, which, as we all know, that's what a period is. So it encourages it to get flowing, get going, and get gone. Let's see, what else do I have here? It also is great for balancing the hormones, which, for periods, hormones are always fun. So balancing the hormones, taking down the cramps, and getting the blood flowing so it can stop flowing is exactly what we need. So that's red clover. Don't use red clover if you are pregnant or trying to get pregnant. There have been studies that have shown that cattle and other livestock, upon eating red clover, miscarry their babies. So do not use red clover, or most of these herbs actually, if you're pregnant, because most of these herbs affect the uterus, and you don't want to mess with that if you have somebody in your uterus. Alright, so the next plant is white willow, which I did not pull down, and I don't know where it is. Give me one moment. I'm going to mess up my whole framing here. Alright, my white willow. White willow I talked about in my headache tea, and it is a mild pain reliever, and it is also a blood thinner. My mother always told me to take aspirin when I had bad periods, because it would relieve pain and thin the blood, and you're trying to get the blood flowing, so that's a thing. If you want to learn more about white willow, my headache tea, I talk about it quite a bit. That was my video I made prior to this one. Alright, this is a tablespoon of white willow bark. I'm going to do a tablespoon and a half. Or actually a tablespoon and a teaspoon. Sure. Of white willow. I'm going to put the tops back on these as well. The reason I have my herbs in black jars is because it helps them keep longer if they're not exposed to light. Alright, so that helps with pains. See the headache video? I already said that. Alright, shepherd's purse is like the ultimate herb for periods. It's great. It grows in my backyard. It's a weed. It grows everywhere. Great for periods. It's antispasmodic. Helps with the cramping. It lightens the bleeding. It's uterine astringent, so it kind of tightens up the uterus and again gets everything out, gets everything going. And it also reduces cramping. There is so much, like everything this herb does is good for periods. Doesn't smell bad either. Just kind of planty, a little bit tart. So I'm going to do a nice big heaping tablespoon, and I'm going to do 2. All the parts of this plant are used: stems, flowers, the little pods that look like purses, so it's why it's called shepherd's purse. It literally does everything for periods. Helps with the cramping, helps with the bleeding. I think it even helps with the hormones. Alright, and the next one we got is yarrow. Yarrow is a great plant. Dried and taken internally, it does help with increasing blood flow or decreasing blood flow, actually, depending on what you got going on. It decreases bleeding. So if you have the uterine bleeding for your period, it helps. I'm only going to put 1 tablespoon in though. Yarrow is also a weed, and you can find it growing everywhere. Please ignore the baby noises. My kid is rolling around on the floor. Alright, so we have yarrow. Yarrow is known as the soldier's herb. If you have fresh yarrow and you apply it to a wound, it staunches bleeding, stick it up your nose for a nosebleed, all that kind of fun stuff. So it's a herb that deals with blood. Alright, now sometimes I put in St. John's wort or chamomile or lavender or parsley into this for calming effects because we all get very angry in our periods, at least I do. So for this rendition, I'm going to put in lavender just because it's nice. It smells good and it tastes good, so it helps complement the flavor of the red clover that we put in there. I'm going to 2 tablespoons of my lavender flower. I should probably make like half a teaspoon of everything so I don't make near as much, but I'm going to use it, so I'm going to make more. Alright, so my highlight herb for this is mother's wort. I mentioned it whenever I made my positivity video, that mother's wort is the moon to St. John Wort's sun. It is also called lion's tail or lion's ear. Its stalks and flowers are used. It's basically a weed too. It grows everywhere. It has, I'm going to read these big words for you, glycosides, flavonoids, tannins, essential oils, fatty acids, as well as vitamins, calcium, and that are antioxidant rich. So all sorts of good things. Traditionally, it is bitter, cooling, and astringent. And since it traditionally, since it has red stems in the summer, it's associated with blood, the heart, and the uterus. Alright, so its 2 main uses are for women's issues and heart issues. We're going to focus more on the women's issues because this is my menstrual cycle. That sounds worse. We're going to call it period too. Alrighty, so the women's issues are usually called menstrual cycles, menopause, and birth. Don't use mother's warts if you're pregnant because it does induce birth, which you don't want unless you're ready to pop. Alright, so it is antispasmodic, helps with the cramps. It's enerving, so it has a calming effect, helps you be less irritable. And most importantly, it is emagagic, I can't say the word. It promotes menstruation. So if your period is late or your period just won't end, mother's wort is there for you. It is also hormonal support. It balances the hormones, which is beautiful. And speaking of balancing hormones, jumping back in my notes, yes, red clover was the one that is best for balancing out those hormones. Alright, it also helps with hypertension, anxiety, and depression. It strengthens the heart, and it also helps with hyperthyroidism. The other use for it is that it's a cardiac strengthener. It makes your heart stronger. Yeah. I will do more research into that later whenever I'm going to make a heart health support tea. That's on my list of things to make. So since mother's wort is a big one, I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of it. Maybe I'll do 3. It's a pretty safe herb unless you're pregnant. So I'm going to do 3 since it is so great for you because it's mother's wort. It helps mothers and it makes you feel better like your mother. Alright, so I'm going to stir that all up here and I am almost done. Alright, so again, since most herbs taste terrible, this one, red clover and lavender tastes pretty good. Mother's wort is disgusting. It's part of the mint family, so it's incredibly bitter. I'm going to add this Kaito cherry rose green tea. It smells tasty. I think it'll complement the cup flavors well. So I got 1, 2, 3, let's just finish it out, 4. Green tea in there. You know, a little bit of caffeine never hurt anybody on their period, unless it does. And if you can't do caffeine, don't do green tea. And this is my period tea. The other things you can add are St. John's wort, parsley, hawthorn, chamomile, or lavender. A lot of times I'll add allspice, cinnamon, orange peel, or clove, which are vasodilators and very warm to kind of get the blood flowing to get all these good chemicals to the parts of your body that need it. You can do that as you please. So, thank you very much for watching. I am Josephine Glass, and this is Glass Garden Apothecary.